Hi everyone, I am Sreekanth. We are discussing programming in C language. The topic is about basics of C programming language. Agenda of this session is about float versus double with a suitable example. In the previous video session we had discussed in detail about float type, double type, long double type with the examples. In this session we try to discuss in detail what are the major differences between float data type and a double data type. The base is float is a data type. Double data type. Memory, it occupies 4 bytes of memory. Float occupies 4 bytes of memory. Double occupies 8 bytes of memory. Its accuracy is low. Float accuracy is what? Low comparatively double data type. Double data type, its accuracy is high comparatively float data type. A float is a 32-bit IEEE 754 floating point. As per the standards of IEEE 754, it represents 32-bit, means 4 bytes of memory. A double is a 64-bit IEEE 754 floating point. It follows single precision. It occupies 6 to 7 decimal digits. Double follows double precision, 15 to 16 decimal digits. The float keyword is used to define a float number. Float is a keyword which is used to represent floating point numbers in programming. The double keyword is used to define a double number. There will be no data loss if we convert float to double type. So typecasting, when we do typecast, converting float value into double type, there is no loss of data. But in case of double, there will be data loss. If we convert what? Double data type to float to type, there is a loss of data. Why? Because float occupies 4 bytes of memory, double occupies 8 bytes of memory. Float value happily we can store into the large range of type like a double. There is no loss of data. But I try to store 8 bytes of data into what? 4 bytes, there is a loss of data. See, in case of float, there is no loss of data when we store or when we convert float values into what? Double type. But in case of converting double data type value to what? Float to data type, there is a loss of data. What is the use of float? It should be used where less accuracy is required and storage is a constraint. There only we are using what? Float to type. But double is used where more accuracy is required and also requires what? More precision comparatively float to data type. Suffix float uses capital F or small f as a suffix. In case of double, it uses small d or capital D as a suffix. Range, float is having lower range when compared to double type. Double is having a higher range comparing to what? Float to type. Representation example like 17.68 small f. See here I'm going to be suffixing with what? Small f. It represents float to type. 17.68 capital F. It also represents what? Float to type. See, if you want to explicitly represent a value is a float to type, then you can attach suffix with this value small f or capital F in case of float to data type. Coming to the double data type, I want to represent a value is double data type. You go with the capital D or small d. The suffix with that value with the capital D or small d. It represents what? Double data type. So this is the basic, the differences of what? Float and double data types. Coming to the range, values, sizes, storages, precisions, accuracy. Here I represented in the tabular format like floating point data type, like float is a keyword, double is a keyword. See standards IEEE 754 floating point representation. Double is also maintains IEEE 754 floating point representation. Float occupies 32 bits, represents 4 bytes of memory. Double occupies 64 bits, represents 8 bytes of memory. In previous video session explained in detail, like 8 bits represents what? 1 bytes of memory. In float, the default value like 0.0 suffix with what? Small f. In case of double, 0.0 suffix with what? Small d. Float is a single precision value. Double is a double precision value. Float decimal digits occupy 6 decimal digits. In case of double, 15 decimal digits. Range is 3.4 exponent minus 0.382, 3.4 exponent plus 0.38. In case of double, 1.7e minus 3082, 1.7e plus 308. Float accuracy is low comparatively double. Double accuracy is high comparatively float. See the representation of float and double bits and exponent and mantissa. See observe here, in case of float, single precision IEEE 754 floating point standards, float occupies 1 bit for as a sign bit. Double occupies 1 bit as a sign bit. Exponent, float occupies 8 bits exponent. Double occupies 11 bits exponent. And float occupies mantissa value 23 bits. In case of double, it occupies mantissa value occupies 52 bits. See, this is about the major differences of what the float and double type. Okay, and also explained with the tabular format the basic level differences and high level differences about float and double. Float is a single precision value as we discussed previously, like double as a double precision value. Double has 2 times more precise than float type. A float is a 32-bit IEEE 754 floating point representation. A double is a 64-bit IEEE standard 754 floating point representation. Float occupies 4 bytes of memory. Okay, like in case of double, double occupies 8 bytes of memory. The range varies like minus 3.4 e minus 38 to plus 3.4 e plus 38. In case of double, range is minus 1.7 e minus 308 to 1.7 e plus 308. Float occupies 6 decimal digits, double occupies 15 decimal digits. After that, the value is going to be round off. Float is a 32-bit IEEE 754 single precision floating point number. There 1 bit for the sign bit, 8 bits for the exponent, and 23 bits for mantissa. In case of double, double is a 64-bit IEEE 754 double precision floating point number, 1 bit for the sign bit, 11 bits for the exponent, and 52 bits for mantissa. The float accuracy is low comparatively double. Double accuracy is high. Float uses suffix like capital F or small f. Double uses small d or capital D as a suffix of particular value. See here I represented float is a data type, float is a keyword, the data type name is float, variable name is var1, the value is 782.46. Can give any value. Here I taken one simple value. I suffixed with what? Small f or capital F. It represents what? Float pointing value or float number or float value. And in case of double example, the name of the data type is double. Double is a keyword. Name of the variable is var1. I assign some value 782.46 suffixed with what? Small d and capital D. Okay. See, it is representation of what? Double value. So this is a major difference between what? Float and double. So in this session, we had discussed in detail about what is float data type, what is double data type, what are the major difference between float and double, like range, value, accuracy, and type and conversions, like that. We have discussed in detail about the major differences between float and double type. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you all.